It ran its course. It ran its course. That is the statement, and I quote, given to me by John Ronan when I had asked him, aren't you going to miss this? Don't you think this kind of sucks that all of our years and years of blood, sweat, and tears and effort that we poured into our game is just all for naught now? It's just going to be forgotten. It's going to be a footnote, if that, in the annals of time. And that was what his response to me was. It had a good run. It had its time. It's ran its course. And I got to be honest with you, that left me scratching my head. That was a really perplexing statement, because what's the reason? What's the logic behind that statement? Like, how do you come to that conclusion that it just ran its course, that it's over, that this is the natural progression of things, when we would never say the same thing? Well, Major League Baseball, it ran its course. The NFL and professional football, that ran its course. It ran its course. It was, it was a thing. It was part of the cultural zeitgeist. Now it's gone. Well, I think we all know how ridiculous that would sound. Not just simply for the fact that those things are around today still. Because those things have persisted not just for decades, but generations and generations. It would sound as ridiculous as saying, well, Coca-Cola ran its course, that it had its day. So you got to ask yourself, what was preventing Laser Quest from doing something similar, from embedding itself into that cultural zeitgeist the way football, baseball, when so many other things have? And I think to not ask that question is to do a disservice. To not ask that question is to overlook the systemic problems of Laser Quest's own business model, its very narrow business model. And in hindsight, maybe why they are in the position that they are in today. And of course, that business model was, as so many other corporate business models are, is to keep the main thing the main thing. Keep your highest revenue source, and focus on that like a laser, even to the detriment of everything else. And if nothing else, Laser Quest did that. They did it to perfection. They focused in on their main thing. And as you can all probably tell, and as common sense would dictate, that is a really good thing to do for short-term profitability. It's a great thing to do for short-term profitability. But in the overall long run, at least in terms of what business is supposed to be, how it's sold to you when you're young and learning about intro to business and all these other things, and intro to markets, long-term equity is always something that's kind of like held up as this brass ring, as this ideal to strive for. But of course, as you grow older and you get out in the real world, you shortly thereafter realize that that is not at all how things work. You lose your innocence to that, and you see it for what it is. Nobody cares about the long-term equity of their business. That's never the goal. It's never the goal. And believe it or not, not only is that not the goal, but even short-term profitability isn't the goal usually. Not always. In this case, obviously it was. But even short-term profitability is kind of like the canard of savings that you're told that you need to save your money that you earn. Save it. Just put it away. Put it away in the bank for a rainy day. But of course, that's not what you're really supposed to do. You're supposed to take that money that you are saving and invest it. And of course, that's exactly what LQ didn't do. The money that they were making, their profit, the profitability is supposed to go to something else. Now, let me just get off on a sidetrack for just a second here, because there's something, and I forget its technical term, but it's a thing, and I'm going to call it flash equity, short-term flash equity. Now, what that is basically, and you see this a lot. In fact, it's an unfortunate byproduct of today's capitalism, but it is. This is one of the worst things that our current system cultivates and produces, and it kind of encourages. And that's, you take this business, you start a business, you build it up, and you build just enough equity and carve out a tiny fraction of the market as your own share. Once you've got that tiny fraction, now one of the bigger guys comes in and makes you an offer to sell your business to them so they can fold it into them and help them continue their monopoly and domination of the market. That's how that works. You see that a lot because it's a goal that's to be strived for. It's the quiet part that we don't say out loud, but that's what happens. Anyway, I'm going to digress back to the actual point here. So Laser Quest did neither of those, neither long-term equity or short-term flash equity. It's actually, there's a good argument that it would have been in their better interest to do the latter that I was talking about, going for short-term flash equity, but they didn't. No, Laser Quest went with a more conventional wisdom, which goes something a little like this. We got ours, we must be doing something right. So hey, why reinvest? Because after all, things just run their course. And so the story ends. It ran its course. Just like the Super Bowl and the NFL and the NBA, that all ran its course, right? Yeah, that's what it means to reinvest. But hey, I guess all things run their course. It ran its course. That's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.